Hi everyone, I'm Dan Jones. Welcome to Interchange. Thank you so very much for joining us. We have so many interesting things to talk about today. I don't know how we're going to do it all in 1.5 hours. More than 500 people have filed sexual abuse claims against the Milwaukee Catholic Archdiocese, which is in the midst of bankruptcy proceedings. So what happens now? We'll talk about the Milwaukee County supervisor charged with taking $500 in a sting operation. And we'll talk about the guy at an Aldi grocery store in Milwaukee who pulled out a gun and then shot an armed robber. And we will talk about a dispute involving the union workers who make the lunches for the Milwaukee public school kids. All right, let me once again introduce everybody. We have newspaper columnist Joel McNally, and of course Kevin Fischer, longtime broadcaster, political analyst, oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Talk Radio. You know Denise Callaway, she's the coordinator of business and community partnerships for the Milwaukee public school system. And Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert. Rick Horowitz is going to be along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, the first thing we'll talk about is the shocking and very sad story about the alarmingly high number of people who have filed claims against the Milwaukee Catholic Archdiocese in its bankruptcy case. Many of these are people claiming some sort of sexual abuse by priests, and some of it happened allegedly decades ago. If the diocese is going bankrupt, is there any chance whatsoever, Gerard, that these people are ever going to see any sizable sums of money?
No, and I hope that that wasn't their motivation for filing these claims against the church to begin with. It's been said oftentimes that the objective is to ensure that there's healing for those who were victims. In many ways, there are those who would like to have some kind of reconciliation with the Catholic Church because it is the church that they want to have the relationship with and not with some of these monster clergy that were preying on these young children. I thought it was interesting this week that the Cardinal Archbishop for Philadelphia just passed away, Bevilacqua, who had been responsible for overseeing the diocese in Philadelphia at the time of a lot of their clergy abuse scandal and the shifting of people to other dioceses. After it had been discovered that they had these proclivities. And I think you're going to see a continuation of the turmoil in a number of dioceses, especially those that have open bankruptcy cases that they're trying to resolve. It's not going to be pretty. There's going to be efforts made to have some of these cases dismissed for a variety of reasons, and that will reopen wounds for those who step forward, believing that it was at the invitation of the church to come forward and make the claim in the first place. So it's not a pretty process, and I'm not seeing any easy closure in any of this.
Denise, do you think in the end the Milwaukee Catholic Archdiocese survives as a smaller organization, or will they pretty much be exactly like they always have been?
You know, I think there will be some changes. I think it will be a smaller organization, but just the numbers that we're talking about, I think is just absolutely devastating to people. And it can tend to shake people's faith. It's one thing to hear, as bad as that is, about what may be a scattered couple of cases here or there. But, you know, 550, it just is mind-boggling. And the amount of time that we're talking about is also just incredible, decades and decades and decades. So I think the challenge for the Archdiocese is really going to be to try to keep the faithful in the flock, to make sure that they don't run into a circumstance where they have to close, you know, any more, consolidate or merge any more churches than they already have. Something like this that happens has the ability to really shake someone's faith. So I think that the Archdiocese really is going to have to work. And I think in some ways it has done a good job of trying to go through the healing. I think the problem with this is sexual assault when you're a child is bad enough. But when it comes to the hands of someone who you are supposed to trust in some ways above all others, it is just absolutely devastating. And that is why I think the healing is so particularly hard for people.
Joel, there is some speculation that this is a legal move, that they want to bring everything to a head right now so that they can ask the court, dismiss all these cases, or a lot of them, so we can move on as an organization.
In a lot of ways, the legalisms are part of the problem right now. You know, Milwaukee Archdiocese, in a lot of ways, yeah, this will almost sound like I'm speaking up for them. They are not the only guilty party here. What made the archdioceses all over the United States be hit with these charges? The Catholic Church is a top-down organization, if there ever was one. And all of these individual archdioceses did not, go out on their own to, decide to cover things up and to not deal morally with a real moral issue. But the church itself, out of Rome, has managed to legally protect itself from anything. Somehow they're considered not part of this problem, even though we know that even the current pope, in another position in the church, was directing a lot of these archdioceses and a lot of the actions they took or did not take against individual priests. So they managed to legally take themselves out of it. Now the Milwaukee Archdiocese, and they have, when you declare bankruptcy and then you start declaring that all kinds of property you own is not your property, and declaring that all kinds of people who are your employees are not your employees, it's hiding behind legalisms in what is a moral situation. And they've looked horrible all through this process when they take families and their children to court and delay and delay and delay until they can bankrupt those families so they'll quit pursuing these claims. Now they've opened it up and said we want all these people to come forward, but as you say, they protected so much of their assets, and they're going to use so many legal tactics on some of the individual cases that they will continue to look bad. The church itself is not confronting it really as a moral issue. They are using the legalisms to hide behind.
Is the organization, Kevin, doing what it legally has to survive as an organization?
Well, I think so. They're not a bottomless money pit. I think
the church itself, it has a lot more money than the Milwaukee Archdiocese.
Well, I think what's going to happen is it will be a long, protracted, ugly process. And in the end, because there is a finite amount of money here, and it's not all that large, that there will be a settlement reached with most, but not all, of the purported victims. Some of these cases go back decades, but if the Journal-Sentinel's reporting is accurate, I saw, as a devout Roman Catholic who is disgusted by these despicable acts by these molesters, by the way, I did see some glimmer of hope in that. Since 2000, there's only been a handful of these examples, which tells me that whatever the Catholic Church is doing to try to combat this and put a stop to it is working. And the vast majority of people involved in the Catholic Church, including those that put on the Roman collar, the overwhelming majority are good, decent, honest people.
All right, next topic. Next topic is the Milwaukee County Supervisor charged with taking $500 in a sting operation set up by the DA's office, allegedly to use his influence to get a financial deal with the county approved. A question that some people are asking right now is this: did the DA choose to go after a Democrat to counter criticism that office has received, that so many resources are being used to go after Governor Walker, who's a Republican?
I don't think that's the case.
That's a very silly question.
But I do think that the way this case came about, I can think of a number of different ways I would have approached it. Johnny Thomas is a friend of mine. I'm very, very disappointed that if these actions are true, that he fell prey to this for $500. It's just one of the dumbest things that you can do to yourself, to your family, to the community that you serve, those people that have put trust in you. And I'm certain that he feels badly about it, but his feeling badly is accompanied by a whole lot of other folk that feel just as bad because they believed in him and they trusted him. I think to resort to a sting, I'm not so certain that was necessary. If, as has been reported, the action was to move on the agenda a particular item that he refused to move, onto the agenda. There were a variety of ways that could have been addressed. So there must be some thinking out there that he was prone to taking some money in order to move this thing through. And
well, Captain, what did you mean when you said, "Oh, that's a silly question"?
That the black helicopter theory, that there's been all of this attention placed on a Republican governor, and to take the attention off a Democratic county district attorney is going to go after a Democrat in the Milwaukee County Board. I don't see that scenario at all. Not even in Hollywood.
With this DA.
No. If he's innocent until proven guilty. But my goodness, I think Mayor Barrett nailed it when he said how disappointed he was. He had supposedly all the credentials to move into this elected position, but that's gone now. You can't have someone taking bribes who then has his say in every single expenditure that the city of Milwaukee will engage in. And you said that a lot had to do with that whole, they could have gone other routes to nail him. But I think his colleagues did, in the courthouse, did try to get him to move that bidding process onto the agenda, and he wouldn't do it. But then when offered a manila envelope with $500 in cash in a Dunkin' Donuts shop downtown, the next day, within 24 hours, suddenly, poof, that's on the agenda. It looks like the DA has dotted all his I's and crossed all his T's.
Denise, do we have a crooked culture in county and city government here? This has happened so many times the last few years.
It has happened a number of times, and I think it goes back to, one of the things that County Exec Abley talked about was now we need to take a look at this whole process that we use when it comes to awarding contracts, the bid, all of that. We need to examine that. And I think that part of the problem is that in city and county government, the aldermen and the county supervisors do have so much weight in terms of what gets put on the agenda, what items come forward, that it is an issue and it is a problem.
Weight is one way of putting it. I would say power is another.
Well, but I think the problem behind this, I think, is that, first of all, we're assuming that he's innocent until he's proven guilty. He needs to step down from that chairmanship of the Finance and Audit Committee. Whether or not he's guilty, it's a matter of the fact that there'll be questions about propriety, about what actions the county takes in awarding contracts as long as he is in that chairmanship.
Is it better for the DA to go after people who have broken the law rather than setting people up so that they do break the law?
Well, yeah, I've never particularly liked entrapment, but it just as a tactic. But I have to say, I've known Johnny Thomas from the time he entered the government. I think interviewed him a number of times. He was extremely, bright, young, and very ambitious. A young politician, and very talented. And it is bizarre to me, not only, as most people say, that he's charged with taking $500 in cash and throwing a very promising career away, because he's risen very fast and he's been very highly respected by people around him. But he indicated at the time this came out this week that it was shocking to him it was coming out when he was arrested in December. And after he was arrested in December, even though it wasn't reported in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel or anywhere else, he continued to raise money for his controller's campaign instead of at that point, coming forward and ending his candidacy. There are judgment calls in here which are just totally bizarre. It's a sad situation. There have been other, promising young African-American leaders in this community who just seem to throw it away over nothing. And this seems.
So why did he do it?
Seems to be another
Is it
one.
because he felt he could get away with it, like so many in the past? I think they felt invulnerable. People that we've talked about on this program in the past, they felt that because they're in the positions they are, they're untouchable.
There's no accountability.
Right.
But
this
we keep
checks and
crying out for
balances.
more accountability.
This checks and balances system, the effort by the county exec to take a look at this process and make changes if changes need to be made is so critical to restoring integrity to the
Well,
process.
if he doesn't step down from that committee, and they'll never be able to get any work done as long as he's chair, then Lee Holloway needs to just kick him off.
Lee Holloway will take some action to replace him in that position. I think the other piece, though, it's going to take both the county executive and the county board to make those changes in the processes that lead to the awards of contracts.
Okay, next topic. The DA's been busy this week. The customer who pulled out a gun and shot an armed robber at a Milwaukee grocery store the other day will not be charged with a crime. The DA says he was using reasonable force in a threatening situation to protect himself and other people. Is this a good example, Kevin, that concealed carry works, and it works pretty well?
This is what supporters of concealed carry point to as the perfect case of why people should be allowed, people who have gone through the training, people who are law-abiding citizens, people who have passed the background checks, that they exercise, as this gentleman did, his constitutional rights to protect not only himself but protect others. And there is a possibility that lives were saved here. He doesn't want to call himself a hero, but I believe he is. And this sends a message to criminals that, you know, you never know. I walk into a place, there may be someone carrying, and I may be the one, you know, that is putting my life at risk.
Does it scare you, Denise, that this could happen again and again?
Well, the concern that I have is that, but to clarify something, one of the things that the DA said was that because of the situation, this was a case where this gentleman felt there was imminent danger, so the concealed carry permit was moot in this case, because in those cases where you have that imminent danger, you can act. You don't have to have concealed carry permit to do that. I think the concern about it is, you know, Aldi's, just like all of the other places that have prohibited the carrying of weapons, had a big sign on their door.
It didn't do any good, did it?
Well, and I think that's the concern that I think folks should begin to have.
Criminals ignore that.
But so do people who are legally carrying weapons.
Well, he said he was going to go back. Had he seen the sign, he was going to go back to his car, whatever.
Yeah.
Put the gun.
He said he would have shot all that other stuff. You know, if you're.
But I'm just telling you.
Those are the only doors you can come in that store, and if you didn't see those on the door, then you know there's something else that's going on. But I think the concern is that you have these you have organizations, companies, businesses that say we don't want concealed weapons in here. They can bring them in, and under this particular ruling, people can feel free to perhaps ignore those signs. I think that's a real problem. This gentleman's very interesting, too, because when he held his news conference on Friday afternoon, he talked about the fact that he now has a website. And you can go to the website, and actually, he said he's available for speaking engagements.
Mm-hmm.
So,
America is a great
he's
country.
trying to push his 15 minutes of fame as far as he can, I guess.
But did he save some lives?
I don't know. Perhaps many more lives could have been lost as a result. I am, like everyone, very grateful that no one got hurt in this incident, except the robber who got shot a couple times, but he still managed to flee the store. But I don't want to be in grocery stores where gunfights take place. I really don't. And I want my grocery stores to have signs that say, no gunfights, please, while people are shopping for groceries. And you know, the way this whole situation was described, you know, he said, you know, he saw the guy with the shotgun, you know, pointed at a clerk, and this person seemed extremely nervous and extremely jumpy, agitated, and believe me, you know, an extremely nervous, agitated person with a deadly weapon, I don't want someone else pulling another deadly weapon on them, and both, you know, deadly weapons exchanging fire in a crowd of people. I really don't want that to happen. I'm glad that no one was hurt. I'm very glad that no one was hurt, but I do not think adding guns to a situation makes that situation safer. It could make it much more tragic. There could have been many innocent lives.
But did not in this case.
That's nothing to brag about. That's nothing to brag about.
And here's the reason why Joel is absolutely right. The gentleman said that he fired 6 or 7 shots. 2 of those shots hit the suspect. Mm-hmm. What happened to those other bullets? This is the danger of people who now have the right to carry a concealed weapon, thinking that they also have the training and the knowledge to act as a police officer would in that situation.
If you're at a
No one
grocery
else got injured, though.
If you're at a grocery store,
You're suggesting that those 4 other bullets, you know, no one else got hurt.
That was luck.
That's right. It was luck.
And the hero even managed to get a woman who was standing near the robber, managed to get her attention and get her out of the way before he fired.
If you're at a grocery
but there are
store
other things
and the
there.
guy in front of you is robbing the clerk, do you want the guy behind you to have a gun or not?
No, because I can't duck fast enough. I'm wondering, and a lot of this is second guessing on my part. I'm sure. Would a call to 911 have been just as effective? If the objective is to make sure no one gets hurt and to make sure that the robbers don't get away, I would think that perhaps a call from some distance would have achieved the same
And the
outcome.
time it takes police to
Well,
respond.
the time it takes, but you never know where they are. You could, but we could have had dead bodies. And I'm saying that it's second guessing on my part, but we could have had dead bodies.
But we did not.
Well, that's because everybody in that situation was blessed.
The assumption on this program here tonight is that everybody carrying a concealed carry permit and a gun is a bumbling, fumbling, stumbling fool who can't shoot straight. And that is not true.
But most are.
No, most are. You don't know that.
Most are.
Training.
What we have said is he doesn't have the same kind of training a police officer does to step in and try to take the kind of action that a police officer
enough training
would.
to do what I think was correct in this case.
All right.
I don't
we'll
think
move
so.
on and just talk about the next topic for only a minute or so because that's all the time we have, but we have to talk about it. I find the recent dispute between the Milwaukee School Board and the superintendent pretty interesting. Gregory Thornton wanted to farm out some of the school lunch preparation now being done by union workers to a private entity. He said it would save money that could then be put back into the classroom. But the board said, nope, absolutely not, no way. The work will stay in the hands of union workers. Denise, should we be surprised that this is what happened?
Well, the board didn't say that the jobs will stay in the hands of union workers.
They said, well,
what the board
to do
said
things
was they
the
wanted
way
to
we are.
continue to do things the way they are. Look, in most cases, in many cases, Dr. Thornton and the board are in agreement on how to move forward in these very, very tight budget times. This is a case where there was disagreement. I mean, and that's going to happen. We have a superintendent who brings forward ideas that he believes very strongly in, and you have a board then that has to make a decision about those. The reality of it is we are in very tight fiscal times. The superintendent has some ideas about what he wants to see happen, and the board has gone along with so many of them. We didn't even talk about the effort and the action that the superintendent and the board took to save millions and millions and millions of dollars on health care. This is a small piece where there's been disagreement. And I think the board sees itself as having not just the fiduciary responsibility, but they also want to make sure that the meals are
The board
are
messed
good.
up. Just say it. Thornton was right.
We have to move on. You know, the Super Bowl isn't the only national sporting event getting major attention this week. There's also presidential politics. Mitt Romney had a big win in Florida on Tuesday night and then a big fumble on TV Wednesday morning. Romney's critics may be piling on, but riding to the rescue is writing consultant and commentator Rick Horowitz. Really, Rick Horowitz. Rick.
What if I told you that my all-time favorite Christmas song is the one about how everybody knows a turkey? You know the one, right? It's the same one that talks about Santa Claus driving drunk. You're skeptical, I can tell. Allow me to demonstrate. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe. Did you catch it? Everybody knows a turkey. See, everybody knows a turkey. See? And that other part about Mr. Claus driving drunk? They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and, hear it? Santa's on his way. He's loaded. He's loaded. It's right there in the lyrics. It's amazing the kind of mischief you can make when you yank a few words totally out of context. So here's where I defend Mitt Romney, who's being pummeled for something he said this week in a CNN interview. Actually, something he didn't say, not any more than Nat King Cole or Mel Torme said, everybody knows a turkey or Santa's loaded. The soundbite all over TV is Mitt Romney saying, I'm not concerned about the very poor. And it's true, he said those words in that order. But immediately after that, to explain why he's not concerned, he said, we have a safety net there. He's loaded. Lots of toys and goodies. Now, you can disagree, I do, with Mitt Romney's belief that the social safety net is anywhere near adequate, let alone ample, to help poor people. You can doubt, I do, Romney's pledge that if there are any holes in the safety net, he'll fix them. You can even argue, I would, that the policies he's pushing will do just the opposite. But you can't say he said, I'm not worried about the very poor. He didn't, not really. Not any more than Barack Obama really said, if we keep talking about the economy, we're going to lose, which was something an aide to John McCain had said back in 2008, and which candidate Obama, back in 2008, had quoted, but which the Romney campaign has tried to pass off as Obama's own comment. And when the fact checkers climbed all over them for that distortion, the campaign actually defended it. He did say the words, one Romney aide tried to argue. That's his voice. He said the words, that's his voice. So a question from Mitt Romney, are you sure you want that to be the standard?
Well, thanks, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Stay warm. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.